Hi folks, thanks for joining me for this week's river tutorial. What you see in the vise is a double up really. So if I turn it on the side, you can see it looks like a spent fly, so a spent LDO. Show you it that way. But if you tie it a slightly different way, or you manipulate the fibre a slightly different way, you can turn this fly into an emerger. So without further ado, let's get into it. In the vise then is a Hanak H360 barbless hook. This one's at size 12 and it's on a medium wire in black nickel. Now, the thread I'm going to be using today is the UTC. It's at 140 denier, and as you can see, it's an olive thread. Now, I'm going to just get a little bit of wax onto my tail end here and try and rub out quite a bit of that. I don't want too much wax on my thread because the thread is going to actually produce my body material. So I'll catch in just in behind the eye, and I'm going to come back approximately 1/4 of an inch. Then I can come in and remove my rat's tail. Now at this point I'm going to add my rib, and I'm going to be using the Fish On silver wire, 0.14 millimeters thick, nice bright silver, and I've already got a little bit pulled off for that. So I'm going to catch that in up here, and the reason I'm tying in my rib now is just really to save thread wraps, because I'm going to be using the thread as the body. I don't want to kick the ring out of wraps. I'm going to bring it right round near the bottom, and then what I'm going to do is just spin my thread anti-clockwise as if I was going to open it up to create a dubbing loop, and all that does is flatten the thread out. So when I come back up, I get a nice flat base, and it creates a lovely thread body on the fly. Just catching in any little bits that are sticking out, and I've come all the way back up to where I tied my ribbon, so about 1/4 of an inch from the eye of the hook. Now I'm going to be using some CDC in this fly, and what I've got today is Campbell Tan Khaki. This is from Troutline, and I've taken 4 to 5 plumes and married up the tips. Now 4 to 5 plumes might seem excessive, but please remember that I am tying this on a medium wire hook. It's not a fine wire dry hook, it's a medium wire hook, and there's a good reason for that, which I'll come on to a little bit later. Now I want roughly the length of the shank of the hook, and I'm going to protrude that by the end there. I'm going to get a few turns to hold it into place. I'm going to lift the front, get another couple of turns in front, and then I know my thread's not going to loosen up, and the CDC will be able to move then. Now with this I want to create a taper. So what I'm going to do is come in with my scissors, being careful not to cut the wing. You don't want to cut the wing you've just tied in, and then just a nice long taper. Once that's in place, no wax at this point, but you do need to be quite firm bringing it down. When you're using the thread as the body, you've really got to take your time and be neat with it, and every now and again you'll see me stop, and all I'm doing is spinning my thread anti-clockwise to create that flatness that you get with UTC. It's a great it's a great thread for building bodies. nice and flat, and you get a great finish with it. Now, as I said, I'm using a medium wire hook, and the reason for that is if you use a fine wire hook, this fly ends up sitting on its side. When you cast it into the water, it sits on its side because it's too light. The medium wire hook's just enough to sink the bend of the hook into the water, and I want it to sit in the surface film. So once that's done, grab your wire rib and then just bring it up, and you need to be quite firm with this as well. You don't want the wire rib moving round the body. Usually with this kind of fly, I would always use UV resin. Just give it a very light coat to hold it into place, but I don't want to add any more extra weight than is already in the hook. So it'll just be going on itself. I'm being quite firm with it so that it sits in place. And then once I've got it up to the thorax area, I can come over with my wire, a couple of turns to hold it into place, a couple of turns in front, then keeping tension on the thread, just give the wire a little twist until it parts company with your fly. Okay, that's looking good so far. Notice I've still got plenty of room in the front here, which is perfect for finishing the fly off. And while I'm waffling on, I can see my threads already spinning, trying to flatten itself out, which is perfect because I'm going to create a dubbing loop, and I'm going to add some of this material. Now, you might have seen, if you follow the channel at all, you might have seen me using this in the past. I'm a big fan of snowshoe. This one's dyed olive. It's a very interesting material and highly buoyant, which makes it perfect for this fly. Now, I've already picked off a little bit and I've put it into my clip. So I've just gone in with my thumb and forefinger, pulled it out. But what I want to do is just remove the white. So you can see the little white edges there. So I've just tidied that up, and that's now ready to be slipped into a dubbing loop, which I'm going to create now. Now with the UTC, it's just a dream to work with as far as creating dubbing loops. I mean, I don't know how well you can see that, but it flattens out really easy, and it's easy to see for an old codger like me to get my needle in. Then I can come in with my snowshoe, which I've prepared in the clip. Make sure you catch it in before you remove your clip, as I nearly blew it there and we'd have to start again. Now, just off camera, I know you can't see this, I'm just spinning up my bobbin. You might just see the top bit here spinning away, and all that's doing is locking them fibres in between your thread wraps. So once this is done, if it's done properly, this never goes anywhere, it doesn't disintegrate. Now I want it a little bit thinner at the top of my brush, and I want it a little bit thinner at the bottom of my brush. Then all I'm going to do is get several turns in behind, and then when I've got approximately a centimetre left in my brush, I'm going to lift my wing and bring the thread around the front. Now this does one of two things. I get the whole thorax impression coming around the front of the fly, so the fish will barely see the CDC, and it also cocks that CDC back up, so the fly will sit just right in the water for me. Now, before I finish this, I'm just going to add the tiniest amount of resin. Again, it's all about, you don't want to add any unnecessary weight to the fly, so just a tiny bit of resin, and I only want to get 3 turns in to finish the fly off. Then I can come in with my snips and remove my thread, lift the ring back, give that a little zap, and then it will not go anywhere. Now, that's the fly essentially finished. Depending on what you want to do, I mean, I have this as an emerging pattern or a spent pattern. So if it's emerging, I try and brush everything up towards the back of the shank, like so. And what I've got, if I just show you the profile, is a nice little emerging pattern. But if the hatch is going on a bit and I'm starting to see dead flies on the water, I can simply come in with my fingers and give the impression of wings. So when it sits on the water, the footprint's that of a spent LDO. It's a handy little tip. Snowshoes obviously not a common material, and you know, I'm all about substituting materials where you don't have them in your box, but for this pattern I think you really can't do without snowshoe. You could try using Aero Wing. I don't find it particularly effective, but the snowshoe's perfect for it. So there we go, an emerging spent LDO. I hope you enjoyed that. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please think about clicking that button. Your support would be much appreciated. Stay safe, and I'll see you all next time.